Good morning, family, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you also so much for joining and being a part of this awesome, amazing community. I am so encouraged every single day to get on and to see so many people that are positive and loving and caring and encouraging others. I am encouraged that in a society and in a culture where it seems so much easier to lash out, to point out wrong in someone else, where there are campaigns that are launched against individuals and their character to assassinate them by a character assassination, that there are still people that would rather look for the positive, that would rather encourage, that would rather build up, that would rather do their part to change the world rather than point their fingers at someone else. Thank you for being responsible. Thank you so much for being ones that would rather shed and would rather spread light and love and goodness in this earth. Thank you so much for just being you. Today, I want to talk through a subject, and I won't be before you very long, but I want to talk through a subject. And the subject title is going to be Keep Doing It Well. Keep Doing It Well. Um, I want to talk through this subject because I know that many of us may be aspiring to a better life. Many of us may be aspiring, and maybe we want a better job. Maybe we want a spouse. Maybe we want to be a certain size. Maybe we want to be healed. Maybe we want our finances to change. Maybe we want a house. Maybe we want something different or want to be somewhere different than where we are right now. And if that is the case, and that is you, that there is something that you're desiring to be better or to be different, or you want something new in place of where you are, then today I want to share this message with you in hopes that you would be able to, one, understand where you are and the reason why you may be where you are, but also give you the steps and the tools, which are not many, but the steps and the tools to usher you into this place that you are hoping and praying and wishing would come to pass in your life. So stay tuned and let's talk through this just a little bit today. I want to read a scripture for us. And for those that do not read scripture, it is quite all right. You don't have to read scripture to stay here. You don't have to read scripture in order to hear this message or in order to glean from this message. You are still welcomed here, and we love you ever so much. Luke chapter 16, verse number 10 is where I want to read today, and this is probably very familiar. You might not have even known that this was a scripture. You may have just heard this time and time again, but today I want to point it out in a scripture so that we can hear it together and we can make sense of what it actually means. Verse number 10 says this: whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will always also be dishonest with much. Um, so if you have been trustworthy, verse number 11, so if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with riches? Verse number 12, and if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, then who will give you your own property? I wanna talk through this really quickly from the positive standpoint. Sometimes we do want something greater. We want something better. Sometimes we want a new relationship. Sometimes we want the relationship that we've prayed for. Sometimes we want to be a certain image with our physical body. Sometimes we want our new house, and we may be in positions that are less than. Sometimes we may want a new car, and the car that we have could be starting to mess up and could be starting to fall apart. Sometimes we want a new life because the life that we have is not exactly what we wanted it or what we thought that it should be. Sometimes we just want something to change. And in our desire of something to change, it can keep us fixated on all of the negative about where we are. Um, we can become frustrated, irritated, aggravated about the sound of someone's voice if we are ready for a new relationship. We can become aggravated, frustrated, and fixated on the light that's coming on in the car if we are wanting a new car. Maybe the car wobbles a little bit, or maybe it doesn't have the best feeling. Maybe the door doesn't close right. Sometimes, if we're working a job and we are ready for a promotion or we're ready for a new job, then everything about that company's values or the way that people interact, the culture can be aggravating. And we can become so fixated on that that we can lose sight of the good in every single moment. I believe that when we shift our focus into finding the positive and resting in the positive, right where we are, right where we've been planted, then one, it has this tendency to elevate our mind, to elevate our emotions, so that we show up in the proper way. If you really think about it, if you're in a position that you are starting to find the negative in a person or in a place or in a thing, then it really doesn't matter what they do, you're going to always find something negative wrong. I want you to think for a second of when you first get into a relationship with someone. It's like everything they do, you just think it is so cute. Oh, look at the way she breathes. Oh, look at the way she talks. Oh, look at the way she eats. But then after being in that relationship for quite some time, you look at the way she breathes, look at the way she eats, look at the way she talks, you see how she walks. Those things can begin to turn. The very things that we liked about someone that drew us to them can also be the very things that turn us against that said person when we have placed ourselves into a negative trajectory of mind thought because we want something new or when we want out. The way that we elevate from one level to the next without having to replay the same types of scenarios or issues over and over again, from relationship to relationship, from job to job, from car to car, from house to house, is when we learn to process through those things correctly. When we learn to take care of and to do our part with the places that we have been planted, it heals us to the perspective that we know that we can be called up higher, that we can be called up to our next. Many times we find ourselves in cycles of walking into the same types of situations over and over again with the same frustrations over and over again. And many times the reason why this happens is because we have not processed correctly through where we were. We did not continue to serve where we were with the right tendencies, the right habits, and the right mindset, the right heart set. We allowed the circumstances and situations to allow us to laser focus on the negativity, and we begin to continue to focus on and think about and dwell on those negative things so much until it seeped into our heart. When those things seep into our heart, we just carry them from place to place. And so we will step into a new season. We will step into a new relationship. We will step into a new job. We will step into a new house. We will step into the new car, carrying the baggage and the weight of the old thing, therefore already giving ourselves a disadvantage of seeing through a skewed or a negative lens. And before long, we will start to say things like, I went through that at my last job. I went through that at my last place. The type of job that I work, I deal with a lot of new hires. And a lot of times when I jump into the classrooms, I will hear this statement rather frequently. Well, at my old job, we used to. And the moment that I start hearing that, I know that someone is carrying over expectations. If you think about the relationships that you have been in, a lot of times you carry over the expectations, the fears, the doubts, and those things can trigger you when you see them in the new space, therefore not giving you the fresh chance and the opportunity to allow something to be new. Sometimes we go through seasons that God will keep us in a waiting moment because He's just trying to process for us, out of us, all of the things that we have carried, the baggage and the weight. I hate to mention this in this moment, but I believe that it should be noted. There's a song by someone named Erica Badu, and most of you know her, where she talks about the baggage that we carry. And friends, I think that so many times we carry so much baggage that we put unlofty or lofty expectations on the people that are around us, and we don't allow them to be who they authentically are because we carry so much baggage from where we have been that we put this false sense of expectation on every person and every relationship and every circumstance that we encounter. Have you ever been with someone that has been hurt in relationship and so they are guarded? And sometimes we can be that someone that has been so hurt from the past things that we have not allowed ourselves to properly process through, that we come into our new place guarded. Friends, if we're coming in and stepping into every situation guarded, and if we're stepping into every job with the residue of where we have been, if we're stepping into the new car with the same exact spirit and mentality that we had in the last one, if we step into the house with the same tendency and the same carelessness that we lived in the apartment with, then chances are it will not be before long that where you were ends up showing up where you are. We have this obligation and this duty to ourselves. We have this duty to our future selves to take care of where we are. You know, I think back in the scripture about David and how David was called to the palace, but he had to serve in the sheep pasture. He had to serve taking care of the sheep and protecting the sheep. And there was something in what he had to do in that place that prepared him to and positioned him for the fight that he would need in order to secure the palace. When I think back to Joseph and how Joseph was thrown into prison unjustly and unfairly, there was something about the actions that he properly cared for those that he was there with, and he used his gifts and his talents. And it was the gifts and the talents of interpreting dreams that actually caused him to rise to the kingdom, to rise to the palace, to be called into his position that he was called for. Every scripture that we can look back at, we find that when we are faithful to using our gifts and our talents, even for things that do not serve us, that when we are kind and when we are good and when we serve where we are well, that it elevates us because God sees what we do. And what we do is not unto man, but we do what we do as unto God. We care for people as unto God. We forgive people as unto God. We are kind and loving to people as unto God. It's not about always getting our lick back, but many times it's about God vindicating our name. And the way that He does this is because we show up in the proper posture. Friends, when Jesus did mostly every miracle that He did, He used what He had where He was. When He healed and opened the blinded man's eyes, He used spit and He used mud, something that was already there. When there was a multitude of people that were hungry, over 5,000 people that were hungry, He used what was there. He asked, who has something? And someone, a little boy, gave him a lunch with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, and He used what he had. When they were at the wedding and his mother wanted him to turn the water into wine, he asked someone to just simply go and get some vessels, and he filled them up with water, stuff that was already there. Even the miracles that He did with people, He would speak to them, and He would speak to the place that hurt or speak to the place that was broken, and He would touch it or He would speak to it, and He would heal the person that was already there. Many times it's not that we need something new. Many times it's not that we have to have a new anything. Many times our miracle is in simply taking care of what we have and treating it right, regardless of how it is treating us. And from that and through that, there is an elevation that comes where God says, you've been faithful over a few things. Now I will call you up higher, and I will make you ruler over many. Where we recognize and realize that every seed that we sow actually comes back to us, that it doesn't matter what people do to us, it is our response that God judges and watches. So if you have been in positions where you have been treated unfairly and you continue to be the same loving and caring person that God has called you to be, then I will share with you, then those seeds will come back to you regardless of what was done. Maybe you're on a job where you were treated unfavorably, and you were looked at and dismissed, and someone else got a promotion around you. And maybe you're saying, God, maybe I was forgotten. And maybe they did forget you, but God has not forgotten you. And there is a due service that God will reward you with. Maybe you were in a relationship where you were faithful to someone and you were loyal to someone and you loved them and you cared for them and treated you right. And maybe they weren't so kind, and there is a part of you that has pain and hurt because of it. I will say to you, just keep being the person that you are. God saw everything that was done, and reward will come back to you. Family, many times the reason why we don't get called up higher is because we respond like they respond. And when you stop responding like they respond, and you respond as unto God, then God will reward you for your deeds and for the goodness, because he sees every single thing that was done, and God will vindicate you. I'm praying that today this message has caused a release to come into your soul, that you've heard out of the words that I've shared that there is better that's ahead of you, and that God has seen all of the tears that you have cried, that weeping endures for a night, joy comes in the morning, that those that sow in tears shall reap in joy, that you will recognize and realize that there is no good thing that you have done and seeds that you have sown that will not be rewarded back to you. God has not forgotten, and everything that he has promised that you would have, you will have. Maybe there is a season of you processing through just a little bit longer so that you can get all of the negativity out of you before you move into this next, so that you will be able to enjoy with great joy, basking in the goodness of everything that's coming to you. I'm praying that this message has blessed you and that it has encouraged you. Maybe you need prayer as you process through this. Just simply say, I need prayer, down in the comments section, and we will be praying for you every single Thursday at 6 o'clock a.m. Our prayer team prays. Maybe this message has encouraged you. Maybe it has pointed out to you what you need to do, or the fact that great really is coming to you, and you would like to say thank you. Just simply click on the link in the bio, and there is every way that you can contact me. Maybe you also want to partner, and so thank you to every single partner. I pray for you every single week, and I am praying that as you partner with me, that God would increase and multiply every single thing that you sow consistently, that he would multiply that back into your life and meet every need immediately. Either way, thank you so much for watching, family. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see